Welcome to the Cash Flow Empire, everybody, where we love to bring every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Very, very great friends of ours, experienced operators. We like to talk about the ugly, dirty truth about real estate, not only multifamily, but a lot of as you know by now, a lot of the speakers that we've been bringing every Tuesday, we've been dabbling in the single family, we've been dabbling in the multifamily, and just really just trying to combine the two and see where we're able to bring some value. And tonight we actually have a really good friend of ours who's just an amazing operator, amazing guy. I love talking to him every time I see him. And his name is Shawn Griffith. So everybody welcome Shawn Griffith tonight to our call. Shawn, what's up, man? Where you at in Alaska? I see some icebergs back there.
That's actually the other side of the planet. That's Antarctica. That's where we went on vacation back in February.
Oh, that's actually you.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I took that picture. We were in a little rubber Zodiac headed out to the little yellow spot there. You see, that's a 6-person mini sub that we got to go down in.
That is super cool, man. So it looks like you've been traveling all over the world. My assumption is from your wealth in real estate, right?
That would be a good assumption.
That's cool, man. So obviously we're out here tonight. We obviously know who you are, but let us know who Shawn is for those that are barely hearing about you. I know you're extremely involved in many different communities. You're in various podcasts. Man, you're all over the place. But for those that don't know who Shawn is, just give us a breakdown of who you are, where you're from, and just a little quick bio on how is it that you got into real estate in general
Okay.
and multifamily.
Yeah, I'll give you the short version of a fairly long story. I grew up in East Tennessee. If you're not familiar with Tennessee, if you know where Memphis, Tennessee is, it's as far away from Memphis as you can get and still be in Tennessee. It's all the way up in the northeast corner in the Tri-Cities area, way up in the mountains. Grew up there, got out of a little town that I lived in as fast as I could. I went in the Navy when I turned 18. I enlisted in the delayed entry program and applied for a scholarship. I know you'll all be utterly shocked to know that the government screwed up the paperwork on the scholarship. So by the time they got it straightened out, I was already through electronics school, getting ready to head back down to Orlando for nuclear power school. So they discharged me from active duty to inactive reserve, went down, took my scholarship, was commissioned, went out to San Diego for training, went out to my ship, spent 4 years out in beautiful Honolulu, although I wasn't in port maybe half the time, probably less. Did a couple of Westpac deployments, got to spend a little time out in the Persian Gulf where I found out that you can have sandstorms out at sea. That's a really odd occurrence. Got out of the Navy, went to work for Texas Instruments in Dallas because there was no work to be had in East Tennessee. Worked for them until they sold their defense group to Raytheon. Raytheon packed up and moved out of town. And then I did what I like to refer to as some creative unemployment. I did some access database babysitting, ended up at Southwest Airlines on a contract gig. They liked me and hired me, worked for them for 14 years and then retired, went back east to help take care of my dad for a couple of years, did some contract work. And then after dad passed away and our contract jobs dried up, told the contracting company, hey, my wife and I will move anywhere in the company, just find us jobs. They literally called me the next day and said, hey, we got a gig we think you'd be perfect for in Dallas. I go, yeah, who's it with? They go, Southwest Airlines. I'm going, I could work for them. And they go, yeah, we figured you might. So I came back to Dallas, been here ever since. I've lived in Texas longer than I've lived anywhere else, over half my life. And for those of you that are counting, yes, that's more than 25 years. And then I bounced around town doing contract jobs for a while. And during that time, I got involved in real estate. Like I said, we've been investing passively for about 12 years. Fast forward to November of 2020, we were sitting around the kitchen table talking about finances and what retirement was going to look like. And my wife and I came to the realization that the bill of goods that Wall Street and corporate America had sold us wasn't quite all it was cracked up to be. I mean, don't get us wrong. I mean, we had money in a 401k and we'd had an okay retirement, but we didn't want an okay retirement. We wanted to step things up. We didn't want to have to cut back. We wanted to crank it up a notch. And we asked, how can we do that? And we looked at several different options. And for us, the answer was syndicating real estate. So we dove in about 2.5 years ago. We got our first property under contract in, I want to say it was June. No, July. And then we ended up closing in, no, it was November. We closed in November, like November 3rd. So we got all that worked out. And then since then, we've closed on 3 other properties, and we've got our 5th one under contract right now.
Man, that's amazing, man. You had a hell of a career, man. You just were all over the states.
Hey, and I did that in less than 10 minutes. I told you it's a short version of a very long story.
That's impressive as hell, and I just want to congratulate you on, all the success you've had. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of stuff done. You did a lot in your life, and congratulations to that. And I just, for one, so yeah, I think that was pretty cool, man. I just kind of pictured you all over the freaking map of the world, and that's awesome, man. And I'm glad that you're in Dallas, which is, we all know, is one of the hottest markets in the US. And I want to backtrack a little bit. You said something that kind of caught my mind. You said you've been passively investing for 12 years now. Explain to us, how did you even get into the passive investing side of things first? And the reason I want to know is because, coming from a minority community, as a minority in this country, we don't really look at that kind of stuff. We think that, we want to do everything ourselves, and we want to make as much profits and be active as much as we can, so that we can profit as much as we can, per se. So it isn't until now where I kind of started learning these last 2 years that, as Jonathan likes to say, it's better to have a piece of the pie than 100% of none of the pie, right?
Yeah.
So how did you kind of build that mindset of starting to invest into real estate 12 years ago?
So we have to rewind back to when I was growing up. I grew up on a farm. My grandparents, my grandfather, one of my grandfathers was a coal miner up in Virginia. And they had a small family farm. And then my other grandfather was a retired truck driver who had a farm. And so I grew up on the farm, hauling hay and cutting tobacco and, just working the garden. And I knew I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. I don't mind hard work. And I totally get the mindset of, I want to do it myself because I know how to do it, and I can do it better than, somebody else. And I can trust that I'll get it done. So I totally get the mindset you're coming from. It's, farmers are that way. It's hard for farmers to ask their neighbors for help. And so if you kind of fast forward, a friend of mine invited me to a meeting over at Lifestyles. And I got involved in their program, ended up not liking how they did things. And we ended up, I met a bunch of people, got invested in a deal, got hooked up with a couple of people over there that I really like, and invested with them. And the first deal that we ever invested in really spoiled us. We got like 3.5 times our money back. It cash flowed regularly, like 12 to 14%. So obviously this was, 10 or 12 years ago, because nothing cash flows like that now. I'm still looking for a deal that good. That first deal was the best deal that I've ever had. And it spoiled me. But it also made me realize that, the qualities of the person running the deal are very key. I got involved in another deal that was promising, to more than double our money, and they were promising, I think at the time, 9 or 10% cash flow. We didn't see a penny of cash flow. The 5 partners couldn't agree on how to operate the property. And I didn't know enough at the time to ask the questions. Well, gee, Sergio, are you and Jonathan on the same page of how you're going to run this deal? Do you have the same plan? You know, who has the final say on decisions if the group can't reach a decision? And I learned the hard way that you need to ask those questions before you give people your money, because once they have your money and the deal's done, the deal's done. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of say. I mean, yeah, you could vote the GP team off the island, but it's a lot of work and it takes almost all the investors. And if the GP team has very much money invested in the deal at all, it'll be very hard to get them out as managers. So now, that being said, that was the worst deal we've ever had. I still did lose money on it. Didn't make any money, but I didn't lose money. So I can't complain much. But I mean, looking at, how we moved from, getting into the passive, it was just, I was looking for other ways to, how can I make my money work for me so that eventually, I don't have to work as hard. I mean, you'll always need to work, because if you've got a bunch of investments, you're going to have to spend some time and effort, tracking and babysitting those investments. Because sometimes, I mean, even the best sponsors sometimes need a little nudge about, hey, I haven't seen my cash flow check this quarter, or hey, I haven't heard from you guys in 2 or 3 months. What's going on? Everybody gets busy. None of that stuff's automated, and you can't take your eye off the ball. You got to make sure somebody is watching the property, because if you don't have somebody managing the property, guess what? They don't manage themselves. So I'm sorry, did all that rambling answer your question?
That was a really good answer, Shawn. And now you are in the other part of the equation, right? So first you became passive, and now you are an active, so you understand more about how it is to run this property, right? So my question is gonna be for you. So what do you think is the key to success as a syndicator?
Probably the simplest thing is 2 words: take action. Now, obviously, you've got to educate yourself beforehand. You've got to know a little bit about what you're doing. Don't wait till you have perfect knowledge, because I guarantee you'll never get there. Every real estate deal I've done to date has been different. Every loan has been different. Every lender's been different. Every team has been different. So the main thing is get out there, figure out what your real estate superpower is or is going to be. Do you like running around the neighborhoods trying to find properties, whether it's a single family or small multi or even a larger multi? Do you like networking? Do you like the numbers? Are you one of these people that, you see a spreadsheet and you start getting excited because, you love digging into the numbers and you want to understand how the deal's represented? So do you like problem solving? And I'll tell you right now, if you don't like problem solving, this is probably not the industry for you. Real estate is all about solving problems. And I'm not talking math problems, although sometimes they are a math problem. Sometimes you've got to decide, am I going to paint the building, or am I going to do this proactive, preemptive roof repair? I'll give you a hint there. The answer is fix the roof, because if the roof leaks, it doesn't matter how pretty it looks. So you've got to look at all these things that you have to juggle. But it comes down to you've got to figure out what your next step is and take action. Don't just keep learning. Learning is great, and yes, you do need to keep learning, but don't just keep learning. Learn something and take action on it. If you're planning on going into multifamily as a syndication and you're going to be raising money, and let's say I tell you what, everybody, if you're listening, drop in the chat LP if you're invested in a passive deal somewhere, and just put LP in there if you're invested, and I'll put mine in there too because I'm invested I'm an LP. Yeah. All right. So we've got several people as LPs. So if you guys are wanting to become general partners, what I would recommend is take one of those LP deals that you're invested in, put together 3 or 4 pages that summarize that deal, email that out to everybody you know and say, hey guys, I don't know if you know it, but we're investing in real estate. I don't have a deal for you to invest in today, but if I did, it would look kind of like this thing attached here. And if something like that would interest you, we need to have a conversation. It's literally that simple. I call that warming up your database. And you want to find out who the people you know that might be interested in investing. Do not make any assumptions. I have a friend of mine, Mike Guthrie. I don't know if you guys know Mike. Mike raised over $67 million last year for different projects. And his very first capital raise, I've heard him talk about it, and then he and I have talked about it as well. His very first capital raise, he had no idea what he was going to do. He had never raised capital before. Now, Mike has a very wide and deep Rolodex of very successful people just because of all the things he's done. He had his own business for 28 years, had a lot of great contacts. He started with the A's in his phone, and he had a text, and he sent it to everybody in his phone starting with A. And by the time he got down to G, he was done with, I think he was only raising like 3 or 4 million as his part of the deal for his first raise. Done. And he didn't even finish the G's. So don't make any assumptions about whether somebody you know has money or is interested. Let them make that decision. Unless you know them so well that you know their finances and you know what they think, and I guarantee you don't know what they think. You might think you do, but trust me, you don't. Don't make any assumptions. Those are limiting assumptions. Talk to them, text them, email, whatever your normal mode of communication is. Reach out to those people and go, hey, I don't have a deal for you today, but if I did, it would look like this. If you think you'd like that and you want to learn more, we need to have a conversation. Put it in your own language, but it needs to be that simple.
That is amazing, Shawn. Thanks for sharing that. Don't prejudge anybody, right? You have no idea what they have or not. Santos, I know that your hand's raised, so we'll call you up after one more question here. So Shawn, my question is really around partnership, right? Obviously, if we do syndication, it's all about partners. Whether you're an LP or you're GP, you partner with somebody else to make this deal work. So from two perspectives, right? As an LP, let's say somebody want to invest as an LP right now, how can they choose the right GP? From your 12 years of experience, from yours, what kind of GP team would you choose today to work with as an LP, also as a GP, if you want to partner with them in the deal?
No, that's a great question, Jimmy. Obviously, if you've never been a GP before and you haven't LP'd, I would strongly encourage you to invest in somebody's deal and track them for a while. You may think that's the slow way, and it is. Real estate's a get-rich slow program. It's not a get-rich-quick program. Figure out what you're doing so you don't make mistakes. And as far as the GP team goes, the big thing for me is, are they all on the same page? If you've got, you heard me tell my story about the GP, there's like 5 GPs and there were 5 different ideas on how to run the property. I did not do my due diligence on that team like I should have. Ideally, you want to talk to all of the, the core team that's going to be running the property. You want to have a conversation with all of them, ideally. Now, if you already know them all, great. You may just have, whoever your favorite is, you talk to them and you give them money. But you want to make sure that 1 or 2 people on the team has a good track record. Not everybody has to have a track record, because we typically bring on 1 or 2 new people on every deal. Usually because they think they can raise capital. And I say that because everybody thinks they can raise capital until they go and do it. And I'll give you a prime example. It's a little harder right now. I raised just under $1 million for my last deal, and the deal we're working on right now, I'm struggling at $300K right now. And my personal goal is to hit $1 million on this deal. So we've got a long way to go. It's an environment changes, but the thing of it is you don't quit, you keep after it. But you want to know that the partnership team complements each other. You don't want to have 4 underwriters on the team. You don't want to have 4 asset managers on the team. You don't want to have 4 CapEx managers on the team. You want to have, ideally, if it's going to be a heavy value add, maybe you want one of the partners that has construction experience, or has a background in CapEx management. Sergio, I see him over there nodding his head. If there's, you got to look at the deal, and I like to make sure the team fits the deal. That they've thought about, oh yeah, like on the property, we've got a 506C offering right now that we're raising money for. And we have a guy on the team that he's going to be managing all the CapEx. We got another guy on the team that he's going to be the asset manager, because he's actually works for the property management company we've hired to manage the property. So we have a captive audience. We know he's going to operate that property to the absolute best of his ability because he has a GP stake in it. We've got a couple of people that are bringing capital, and one of the things that you have to understand, especially in this environment now, is people go, oh, you don't want to deal where there's too many GPs. Well, if somebody's willing to write me a check for $500,000, I'll bring them in as a GP, and then we'll figure out some kind of ancillary role that they can perform in addition to just bringing money. Because the SEC says you can't compensate somebody for fundraising. Now, if they're just bringing their own funds, then that's a little less of an issue. If they're planning on bringing their own funds and raising money, then we've got to make sure that they have a job that they can do. I'm sorry, did all that answer your question, Jimmy?
Yeah, you're killing it tonight, Shawn. And before I go on to Santos's question really quick, I want to make it known that tonight, man, I'm hearing a lot of good stuff. I'm learning a lot of good stuff myself. I mean, obviously we're active in a couple deals, but I'm learning a lot. And guys, you guys, Shawn is dropping so many gold nuggets as far as how we're stressing about the type of team members you choose. You don't want 4 to 5 underwriters on the team. You want, ideally, you do want somebody on that team that has some kind of construction experience, because one of the things that I like to say is that it's all talk when you're telling people what you're going to do about, yeah, we're going to raise rents $300 to $400. We're going to go do this. We're going to go do that. And when it doesn't get done at closing because of the lack of experience in construction or not meeting deadlines, or maybe, trying to get things done under budget and on time, below schedule, like all that comes into factor. And I just love that you say that, Shawn. So, man, y'all take some notes. Y'all really take some notes, because you're talking about somebody that's seen returns at 14%, which I want to talk about that in a minute. I want to talk about that, but before we go up to that question, let's get Santos on this conversation really quick. What's up, brother? How you doing? Good to see you here again, man. You're muted. Oh, I accidentally muted him.
There you go. So you're getting used to this technology thing. All right, so Shawn, thank you very much for answer our questions. One thing that I struggle with is how do you show confidence when you tell somebody about a deal? Right now, I'm looking at 32 units, and I'm having a hard time raising money. I got to raise about 400,000, and I'll go to all these meetings, and I'll present it to people and say, hey, there's an opportunity right now. We're looking at XYZ property, and we're looking at looking for partners or whatever. Just put it in simple words. But what I noticed that is, since people see me as a I came to this meeting every week. When they see me there all the time, and then all of a sudden I have 32 units that I want to raise money, they kind of looked at me like, is that really going to go through? You know what I mean? So it looks like maybe people are not taking me seriously, or I'm not saying the right words, or how do you actually become confident and show that what you're looking at is going to provide a good return?
That's a good question. It's harder to raise capital right now. Like I said earlier, like in my previous deal, I raised just under $1 million, and I'm sitting at 300K on this deal right now. That my goal is to raise $1 million on it, and that's just my piece of it. It's going to be about a $9.5 to $10.5 million raise once everything's said and done. The team is sitting at right at 6 million. So we're doing pretty good as a team. Fortunately, a couple of the other team members are picking up some of the slack for those of us that are having problems. Part of it is just get out there and, I call it dialing for dollars. You've got to make those phone calls. You got to make those preferably in-person meetings. If you can meet people and let them know. Now, I guess the other thing too is, have you closed on a deal before?
On small deals, like I used to raise money for single family flips, like fix and flips.
Okay, but you've closed on real estate deals before.
Yes,
that's all they need to know. They say, I've successfully closed 10 deals. It doesn't matter if they're all 10 single family. The only other person besides your investors that you've got to convince is the lender. And if you've got the financial backing, either you have the financial history yourself, or you have somebody that's willing to KP with you. Between the two of you, you've got enough to cover the loan. And this is another one that's, sorry for the tangent, but if you're going into a property, let's say you're buying a $10 million property and you're going to get a $7 million loan and you're going to raise $3 million for it, you and the other partners that are signing on the loan have to have a combined net worth of $7 million or more. So smaller property, if you're only doing 32 units, that's in Dallas. Is it in Dallas?
No, it's in Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Where in Tennessee?
This is close to UT Martin University.
Okay.
South Fulton.
Yeah. I don't know the Tennessee market very well, but what's your target? What's your sales price? What are you paying for the property?
So the asking price $699, and we're gonna be putting about $350,000 in renovations, and we are putting some of the money ourselves, and then I gotta go raise a lot of the money to do
Okay,
the
so you're going to be
repairs.
all in around $1 million.
About that.
Okay.
It's not a
So,
very expensive property. It's gonna be my first 32 units.
okay. I mean, that's a nice size project. Do you have somebody on the team that's local?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the things I've found, that anywhere I will not invest in a deal if the team doesn't have somebody on the team that's local, because you've got to be able to drive by and look at things and evaluate and put eyes on things sometimes. Sometimes you just have to drive by and see if somebody's actually in the office, if you have an office. I had a property where the property management company, I ended up firing them because I went down there 3 different times and there was never anybody in the office. And yeah, every time I called the regional, she go, oh, well, she called in sick today, or oh, she had to go do this, or she had to go do that. And I'm going, well, then I expect your butt to be down here in the seat or get a temp. I mean, so that's what I'm paying you guys for, is to manage the property. You know, I tried to be nice. Well, I was nice about it the first 2 times it happened. Third time I was a lot less nice, and I think they got the idea that they were probably going to get fired at that point. And if it had been up to my wife, she'd have fired him 3 months sooner. But I tend to be, I guess, over forgiving. But anyway, to answer your question about how can you be more, come across as more confident. Let me just ask you straight up: are you going to close this deal?
I'm gonna try.
No, that is the wrong answer. It's like Yoda. There is no try.
No,
There's either
will.
do or
I
do
will.
not.
I will.
So you have to have it in your head that you're going to close this deal, because people will feel that confidence on whether you're going to close that deal or not. And if you have doubt, guess what? They're not going to invest with you. You've got to be confident. I mean, that's what I tell brokers when they ask me about a deal. I'm going, I don't get into deals I'm not going to close. It's just plain and simple. I will close this deal no matter what. Now, you always want to have a plan A, which is you want to raise your money from your investors. You want to have a plan B. Maybe you bring on more partners. Plan C, plan D, you've got to figure out multiple fallback plans for, well, what if this one doesn't work? And you may end up with some combination of all of that. I jokingly refer to my plan G is I call a guy down in Houston. His name's Ethan Gow. Ethan will write you a check for whatever you need to close. I'm sure he's got a top end, but he could write a $4, $5, $6 million check pretty easy. But he has loan shark like rates. He will loan you that money, and your goal is you want to finish raising it to pay him off sooner rather than later, because he wants his money back in about 3, no more than 6 months. And trust me, you don't want to pay him his rates for 6 months on that money. You want to pay him back as quickly as you can. But it's always nice to have an option like that. Maybe you have a private lender that or you can find a private lender that says, hey, I need a gap loan for 3 to 6 months so I can close this property, and then we'll finish raising it and we'll pay you back. And then work out a contingency for that says, hey, if I can't raise the money, would you settle for a stake in the GP part of the deal? Is that going to cut into your pie? Absolutely. Do you want to do that? No. But is a small piece of the pie bigger than no pie at all? Those are questions you've got to ask yourself, and you've got to look at it anytime you're going into a deal. everybody likes to look at all the rainbow and unicorn part of it. It's like, ooh, this is going to be a great deal and it's going to cash flow and it's going to do this. Yeah, but what if it doesn't? You know, what if things go sideways and, you know, and you hire this guy Sergio to come in and you know, and do your rehab, and he comes in and knocks out a bunch of walls, and then he goes on vacation for 2 months. You know, you've got to plan for stuff that got, and I'm just picking on Sergio because I know it. I know he'd never do that, but you know, you've got to look at what are all the options, you know, and you've got to have backup plans, and your backup plans need to have backup plans. Now, do they need to be all written down and detailed out? No, but you need to have thought through them. And the most important part is talk through those with your partners. You know, if you've got 1 or 2 partners on the deal, you guys need to talk through, well, gee, what if this thing goes, what if we can't raise the money? You know, my partner and I, you know, we have a conversation about that about every week. It's like, well, what if we can't raise this money and we've got to walk away from this deal? No, we're not going to. We're going to close this deal, but you know, you've got to think through those things, and you've got to have the conversations with your partners, not just the easy ones about, gee, how are we going to spend our distribution checks? You've got to look at it and go, well, what if we've got to make these tough decisions? What if we have to have these tough conversations? You know, you need to do that up front, so that way, you know, the people that you're working with, you can actually work with them when things get tough. I mean, we all can work with everybody when things are going right. I could probably even work with Joe Biden if everything was going right. Not to get into politics, sorry. But anyway, did that answer your question, Santos?
Yes, that glad you touched that basis on that, because we that's one of the backup plans to talk to one of the private money lenders as well. So he's already on the picture.
And do that before you need them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to have those relationships established. Like, I know Ethan Gallen, I've had a couple of conversations with him, and he, every time I talk to him, he goes, "You will never need my services." He goes, usually the people that need my services are calling me 3 days before closing going, "Holy cow, Ethan, I need $3 million to close." And, you know, I talked to him, I think it was 6 weeks before closing. And he goes, "You'll be fine."
Last thing, tomorrow I'm going to a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, local Chamber of Commerce. Never done a Chamber of Commerce or cutting ribbon or anything like that. But I think that's going to be a a good meeting. There's going to be a lot of business people out there. So nothing to do with real estate, right? But I'm thinking about going there and introduce myself with several people at the Chamber of Commerce and see if we can, become familiar with some of those people out there as well. You think that would be a good idea?
Meeting good people is never a bad idea. I always recommend meeting people. I went to a networking event over in Grapevine this morning. There was only 6 people that showed up, but one of the guys had just moved here from Seattle, and he has a contact that wants to invest in Dallas. So we're going to make a connection. Am I going to get money from him for this deal? Probably not. But, maybe I will. Worst case is, I make a connection and we get to know each other, and he likes to invest. Maybe we just trade investing ideas back and forth. I don't know. But yeah, it's always a great idea to get out and meet and greet. The more people you know, the better. That's kind of the way I look at it.
That was really good. I love these conversations. Thank you, Santos.
Shawn?
That was a really, really good question, man. Thank you.
Damn, Shawn, dropping bombs. I need a fire extinguisher. Golly. You didn't start a forest fire, man. Golly, that was good. That was really, really good. My bad, John. I had to just...
No, that's good. It's a conversation, right? So let's go to Justin, man. I know that you're waiting for your question, so go ahead, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I do have two questions. The first one, when you were just starting, uh, when you were trying to raise capital, how did you get people to trust you with their money?
No, that's a great question. Part of it is, you've got to get to know people, and you've got to be transparent and honest with people. If I'm talking to somebody and I am and I don't look at it as I'm trying to get money from them. I look at it as I'm presenting an opportunity for them, and my role is to help them understand whether that opportunity fits their investing criteria or not. Some people are more detailed about defining their investment criteria and their risk tolerance. Some people, you start talking about risk tolerance and they kind of go, huh? They don't really understand what you're talking about. And they need to understand that, Justin, if you're going to invest 100K with me, are you okay, not happy, but would you be okay if this money went into the deal and you never saw it again? Because that's a risk that could happen. A lot of people that are raising capital will not tell that to their investors. And I tell them, I say, look, the likelihood of me losing your money is pretty small. I've never lost anybody's money to date. But you need to understand that anytime there's a gain on your money for you doing nothing other than investing it, there's going to be a risk. And typically, the higher that gain, the higher the risk. And, and I explain that to everybody and go, this may not make sense for you, Jonathan, if I'm going to take your last dollar out of your emergency fund, I would rather not have you invest with me, because, if you come back to me 6 months from now and say, hey, Shawn, I need $1,000 because I got to put a set of tires on the car. I'm going to say, well, sorry, your investment is not very liquid. And, while we could find somebody to sell the investment to, it's a royal pain in the butt to do that. But, that could happen. But you got to make sure that they understand that, the investment is illiquid, meaning they can't cash it out right away. You need to make sure they understand, what it is they're investing in. If you actually take a PPM and read it, and I'll tell you a little story here. The first time I read a PPM about a dozen years ago, scared the hell out of me. I would talk to the guy that gave it to me, and I go, what is all this stuff? He goes, I recommend, I'm not an SEC attorney. I recommend you take it to an SEC attorney and have him review it and explain it to you. So he introduced me to Merrill Calliser, and I partially blame Merrill to this day for my real estate addiction, because he, I said, hey, I want you to review this document, and two things. I want you to tell me, is it a valid document and have everything it needs in it? And two, I want you to sit down with me and explain it to me in English. And he goes, I can do that. He's like, flat fee, $500. Now he'd probably charge you $2,000 if he would even do it, because he doesn't really practice law anymore. Him and John Montiero are out building stuff up in Sherman. And actually, I think they got one over here in Denton they're building too. They're all over the place. They're going crazy. When he went through that, he went through it line by line. He had highlighted a bunch of stuff, and he got to this section where there's like 14 or 15 pages. He goes, these are all reasons you should not invest in this deal. And he goes, the only reason this should scare you is if it's missing, because that means they're hiding something. He goes, he goes, now 80% of these things can all be taken care of by having the right type of insurance on the property. The other 20% is, doing a very thorough and accurate due diligence on the property from the roof down to the sewers. You got to check out everything. And Sergio knows what I mean by everything. You got to check. You can't assume anything. You got to check it all out. And, you just have a conversation like that with your investor and kind of go, hey, these are the risks. This is how our team is addressing all of these risks that are called out here in the PPM. And, we're going to have a prudent reserve depending on how large the property is. I've got one property, we like to keep about $200K in reserve, over and above the month and a half to 2 months of operating expenses we keep in our operating account. And the bigger property, you're going to need a bigger reserve. But, you talk about all those things with your investor and kind of go, hey, and it's a conversation. You don't, if they're new, you're just going to blow their mind if you dump all this on them the first time, right? You just need to tell them, honestly, it comes down to, do they trust you to know what you're doing? And if you don't have any credibility running the deal, that's where you partner with somebody like Sergio and Jonathan that do have some credibility, and you go, hey, I'm just, I'm investing like you are, and this is one of my personal rules. I do not solicit money for a deal unless I have my own money in the deal, because I don't want to come, I don't want to go, hey, Justin, I think this is a great deal. You should invest $100,000. Now I'm not putting any of my own money in it, but you should invest in it. How many people are going to invest in that deal? None, right? That's one of the ways you show confidence, and Santos, that's another way that you can present confidence to your investors, is say, hey, me and my partners are putting X dollars into this deal. We'd love for you to join us. So you had another question, Justin.
Oh, yes. And also, how did you find reliable partners when you were just starting?
Doing what you're doing right now, getting in the right rooms, meeting people. You can do some of it virtual. If you're actually going to partner with somebody, very rarely would I say just a virtual meeting is okay. Ideally, you want to meet in person. You want to get to know them. You want to have dinner or breakfast or coffee or whatever. You want to get to know them. You want to get to, if they've been in the business a while, you want to get to know some of their other partners. You want to find out what people say about them. You want to find out, will they give you, reference to some of their LPs that have invested with them. I've got several of my LPs that, I've already asked them. I said, hey, if somebody asks for a reference, are you okay giving, me giving them your name? And they go, sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Shawn, every single thing you said tonight is just kind of, it's mind blowing. And guys, remember that we do have this recorded. It will be on our Spotify, YouTube, everywhere, all over the platforms. If you're a visual guy like me that likes to go back and kind of just rewatch the video, you can go back and look at this on YouTube. Or if you want to just simply re-listen to this audio, it is on our Spotify podcast channel, the Cash Flow Empire. And Shawn, dude, you're freaking killing it. And it's just everything you're saying is just amazing. I'm just really, really locked in. I can't believe we're about to hit the hour mark, but it's all good. I mean,
man, has it been an hour already?
Yeah.
Wow.
and we're still going. I just wanted to just take the time really quick and appreciate you real quick. And it's just what a great conversation. And we'll go ahead and get Jenny and Lalo on the line real quick. What's up, guys? My
Hey.
favorite couple.
Hi, everyone. I have a question. So you talked about kind of how you grew up, and then you worked as a contractor doing different things in Southwest Airlines. How did you, or what did you do to kind of have that mind shift into real estate and kind of go into that all the way?
No, that's a great question. You know, I was in IT for a number of years and working at Southwest. I loved working for Southwest. You know, I'd still be working at Southwest, except for the fact that my CPA finally said, you know, this would be a great year for you to be a real estate professional, which was 2 years ago. And so last year was the first year that we paid 0 in personal income taxes. I think we're going to owe a little bit this year, but it's still way lower because I'm a real estate professional. And I'm not saying that to brag. You know, I have some friends that go, well, don't you feel bad about not paying taxes? I go, not one little bit.
We like bragging. It's okay.
Well, and you know, one of the things I like to point out to people that, well, I won't go there, but people that you know think that that's a bad idea. As I said, well, you know, I'm doing what the government wants me to do. I'm creating housing. I'm creating jobs, and you know, all of those people that I house and all the people that I create jobs for, guess what? They're paying more in income tax than I ever would have by myself. And so I am basically driving the economy. You know, maybe it's just one little tiny piece of the economy, but hey, I'm driving the economy. You know, what I'm doing, you know, adds value to not just my local community, but the community at large. Now, how did I make the transition? You know, we started passive investing, and you know, like I say, about a little over a dozen years ago, and we got a taste of, you know, the passive income, and then we just kept, you know, adding to our portfolio. And then at some point, we realized, you know, hey, if we want to get to where we want to be and have our taxes and everything manageable in retirement, you know, if you have a huge 401k, you have a huge future tax problem. Because when you start taking money out of your 401k, you got to stop and think about it. What they sell you on is that the money you pull out is going to be at a lower tax bracket. Well, guess what? If you're going to be at a lower tax bracket, that means you've got to have less income, which means you're going to have a lower standard of living. You're not going to be able to live the way you've used to been doing. And anyway, I'm off on a tangent. You know, when we got to that point in November of 2020, and we were talking about retirement and what, you know, our finances and what retirement was going to look like, you know, we realized that we needed to do something different. And that's probably kind of where the light bulb went on. I've always been interested in learning. My dad had a rule that you don't go to bed at night until you've learned something new. Well, in this industry, that's easy for me to go to bed every night because I learn something new every day about real estate. And you know, one of the coaches and mentors that I follow is really big on mindset. And you know, you've got to, you know, when you're in the car stuck in traffic, you know, instead of just yelling at all the other idiots out there, and I include myself in that bunch because, you know, put on a podcast, put on a book. You know, there's some awesome audio books, you know, just, you know, focused on mindset. You know, Ed Milet's got a great book. I've got one over here somewhere. Oh, you can't, my background is hiding my background. It's The Power of One More, Ed Milet. great book. If you're not a big fan of books, get it on audio, get it on Audible and listen to it when you're in the car. There's a little short book. If you've got kids that can read, it's called The Coffee Bean. And I would recommend that to all the adults as well. It's a short book. It's a very quick read. I think I read it in 30 minutes. If you're a slow reader, it might take you 45. But get around the right people. Get in the right rooms. I'm sure you guys have heard that, you tend to become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, the first time I heard that scared the hell out of me. Because some of the people I were hanging around, I'm going like, I don't want to be like them. I've got a very, very dear friend of mine that I grew up with through middle school and high school. Love him like a brother. We're still close. We call each other now and then. We email a lot. But he is incredibly negative. And I can only take him in small doses. So, like when we go up there to visit, we don't stay very long. So you got to pick and choose, my dad always said that, you're stuck with your family. So that's why you should be very careful in choosing your friends.
Awesome. Thank you.
Shawn, I just got another question just as you were speaking. So your background is in technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did not get into investing in real estate until you're very close to retirement, right? So if you have to do it again, what would you recommend for those who are in their 20s and 30s? They're also in technology field like you, but also thinking about investing in real estate.
Stop thinking and do it. I wished I had invested sooner. Every time I meet some of the kids in this industry, I don't know if you guys know Abbas Mohammed. Abbas is, I think he's 28 years old now. He's just crushing it. And I'm going, man, when I was 28 years old, I didn't even know what net worth was. I was just wondering where my next beer was coming from.
Well, I like that you say that, just because for one, I'm 28 myself, but I'm not calling myself young, but we do have a young guest
I
here
have shoes as old as you.
Dang, really?
I have a pair of cowboy boots.
Man, you got to retire them, bro.
No, they've been resold 3 times. They're too comfortable.
Nice. I want to just give a huge shout out. We got Mr. Justin Reedy, who was asking a question earlier. He's 15 years old. So he's in here asking phenomenal questions. He's hungry as hell. He's trying to, figure it out. He's educating himself. So you can only imagine where he's going to be in the next 2 to 3 years. Just soaking in all this information and just learning, from people like you, Shawn, essentially. So this is why we do what we do, man.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, Justin, just remember, real estate is not get rich quick. It is get rich for sure. And, you've got plenty of runway. You start planning now and, put together a plan on, how you're going to knock down and form your real estate empire. Sky's the limit, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, that is going to conclude our call for tonight. Really quick, you guys hang on, because although we're going to wrap up this call really quick, we will be having the breakout rooms right after, so that if you do have a question, you can ask Shawn himself if you're lucky enough to have him in the breakout room. So once again, Shawn, we would like to just thank you so much for joining us tonight. Every single thing that came out of your mouth today was just phenomenal. You obviously posted your information in the chat. If y'all want to connect with Shawn Griffith, his information is in the chat. So y'all check him out. And before we end the call really quick, Shawn, I want you to give us 3 quick pieces of advice. Could be anything.
Keep learning, take action, and get in the right rooms.
Let's go. Let's go. You heard it from the man himself, Shawn Griffith. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys soon.